when it comes to legal structures for social enterprise. I would definitely love to explore that a bit more with you today and talk about how you can scale your social enterprise as well, because obviously going from green innovation to then Sea Shepherd, you're aware of how important it is to have a global footprint with any type of conservation efforts that we're working on when it comes to our oceans. And I think merging the innovation element with the global reach and really kind of leveraging off both those experiences will be very, very important for GhostNet. And I see tremendous potential there with regard to building a really global community. So can you tell me a bit more about GhostNet and how you're building out a community with what you're doing?
For sure, yeah, with pleasure. So Ghost Network, as you mentioned, it actually it was kind of born through Green Innovation Group. So we work a lot with interns. We very much we like to build a relationship and give opportunities to young entrepreneurs and young students just leaving school, doing their masters or thesis and so on. And initially we started that, I'm kind of going off subject, but I'll be quick on this one. So we kind of started that with just a few interns, and then this has very much grown. And I also created another NGO from working with interns. But the problem in this day and age is, especially in the impact industry, is young people need experience to get into a job. And how can they have that experience when they've just left school and people won't employ them because they don't have the experience? And so it's very contradictory and very difficult for young people to get into this space of impact, whether that's forestry, ocean, or whatever. But this actually inspired me also to create a Ghost Network. Of course, the diving and seeing the ghost nets and then seeing the videos from Sea Shepherd and other initiatives worldwide, I really felt passionate about to make a difference there. And I knew that was something I could actually do because I'm a diving instructor and I have a lot of a great network with awesome people, especially in Portugal, in the diving industry. And they're also in the same boat. They didn't really know what to do. So we just needed somebody to kind of, grab it by the net and really go for it. This started from just meeting different divers and like-minded people, and there was nobody else doing it in Portugal. So this is something that's very new here, and I've been very impressed by how the government are backing us and so on. But where I'm going with this is basically, initially we were diving and we were seeing the mess that was made, and we needed to do something about it. What you have to be careful with as well is that a lot of these nets are illegal. So ghost nets end up in the ocean most of the time from lost fishing gear. So fishermen are out in the rough seas and the gear falls off the boat. But I believe that most of it does come from illegal fishing, which is something we can touch on Sea Shepherd as well. But illegal fishing is very ripe all over the world. And so instead of getting fined when they bring nets they shouldn't have back to shore, they just throw them off the boat. And what the problem here is that they stay on top of the water for a little while. The fish go and get stuck in them. Predators come, try to eat them, also get stuck in the net. Then they die. They sink to the bottom as a corpse, and then the corpse erodes and other predators come and eat them. They float to the top of the water, and this vicious circle of death, let's call it, happens with ghost nets. And so this is one of the main reasons why we had to make action. There's a lot of people making initiatives from it and actually making money from it. But our main goal is to ultimately take the nets out of the water by any means necessary.
In terms of creating opportunity for those means to really create almost a circular initiative out of this, I know you mentioned, some companies do turn ghost nets and plastic waste from the oceans into commercially viable products. So that does happen. Now for you, what does that trajectory look like? So when GhostNet facilitates removing nets from the oceans, how are you going to work with those nets? Do you have any plans for turning them into finished products? What is your pathway forward to turn the Ghost Network into a business?
It's a very good question. So initially we were doing it as an NGO, not-for-profit, and that is the core belief to it, is because we want to rid the nets to killing marine life. But there is opportunities here. So the companies that we worked with are like Waterhaul, who make glasses and diving fins, and Litter Pickers, Got Bag, who make bags, Odyssey Innovation, who make kayaks. We can also use these nets for our own purpose as well by making simple things like bracelets. There is a company called BraceNet, I believe, in Germany, who do bracelets from ghost nets. The thing with ghost nets is, though, is they're not easy to recycle, because when they're underwater for such a long time, they can contain heavy metals and they're just not recyclable. But with our goal, we're going to be getting a lot of almost new nets that are just fishermen don't use, or they just want to discard. And so in our containers that we'll have in the various ports, we'll be having very good quality nets. And so there'll be a different supply chain of different companies that use the nets, and they will come and take them off us. But our main purpose is to use them for products in the long run. So initially with something simple like a bracelet, but then we could go into things like belts, socks, t-shirts, and so on, even glasses ourselves. Right now we're working with the other entities and taking a commission which goes to Sea Shepherd as a donation. But eventually that's the goal would be to make our own products. The question is, how many nets are we going to get? And that's another question, is that we don't know. I imagine a lot, because Portugal is the second highest consumer of fish in Portugal. We have, the land is completely surrounded by ocean. We have fishermen from Africa, Spain, and all over the world, China, of course. So the Portuguese waters are ripe for fishing as well. And so when you have a lot of fishermen, there's always going to be a lot of nets. We could also go on to the topic of strandings, where marine life are getting stranded into the shore because of ghost nets as well. And this is happening in Portugal. We have recorded 1 stranding per day. So 1 dolphin or whale is stranded onto shore per day, dead, mutilated, strangulated from the nets. This is just what we've recorded. We don't see what happens out at sea. Often they're eaten by predators or sink. So this is quite a phenomenal statistic, that 1 marine animal per day has been washed onto Portuguese shores. In France, it's 6,000 per year. In Ireland, the UK, it's very similar. So in Europe, in this part of Europe, ghost nets are, really killing the marine life, and we're seeing it more and more. It's becoming more and more visible to the general public that are walking along the beach and so on as well.
So what's the yearly total for Portugal? So it's around 6,000 for France, and then for Portugal, you mentioned 1 a day per region. I would take that, right? Being 1 a day per particular beach or region. So the total per year for the entire country would be a lot more, right?
Exactly. That is for the whole of Portugal of what we've registered, but it's only a few entities that are doing that now, and it's not very easy. So there's a lot of people willing to work for free with the local government to really register this and to really get a good stat on what it is. We're working with local people. We have a Sentinella operation, we call it, which is like sentinels, that people are out there now looking and registering these strandings.
And you're building an app to report them as well, right? Tell me a bit more about the app.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the next step. It's a long process, as most apps are, and not my forte in the technical side of things. But yeah, we are looking for someone to work with now, and we're working with a local investor to really to help move this forward. So basically, we want to build an app not just for strandings, but the main topic will be strandings and ghost nets. And people can then use this app to report these strandings, because right now it's just photos. They tell us the state of the corpse. They tell us where they found it and so on. And the same with ghost nets. Actually, on Ghost Network, we do have a reporting system where people can send in where they found the net, whether they were diving, swimming, or whatever. They can even send the geographical location or just where they found it. And so we'll concentrate on the app on these 2 topics. But this is not really sellable, so we're also going to make it a lot more gamified. And we're going to add a nice product to the app where families can play games on the beach where they collect plastics, let's say, and take photos, and then ultimately win prizes once they report X amount of plastic they found on the beach with their family. They will get discounts in various GhostNet initiative products or plastic products, so the bags, the glasses, and so on. They'll get discounts in the shops, and they'll win prizes and stuff like this. So this is very much not even in beta stages. We're very much just building this now, speaking with a couple of investors and a couple of philanthropy experts to try and help us move this forward. But this is something that we would love to build, especially the Ghost app, the Stranding app. There is one or two that exist in the UK, and I think there's one in Australia, if I'm right, or maybe even South Africa. Forgive me, I'm not sure exactly, but the other side of the world. But again, they focus only on the specific subject of strandings. We want to try and kind of diversify it. We also already have a lot of potential scientific entities that will use it. There's a great one called the Olive Ridley Project, and there's many other. Sea Shepherd chapters all over will definitely use it. So Sea Shepherd UK, France, and so on. I think it would benefit them a great deal, as they work very much with bycatch and different operations. And so, yeah, this is the plan. It's going to be made by Ghost Network, and then we'll just give it to whoever wants to use it and make use of it, basically.
So let's talk a little bit more about Ghost Network. So you brought up that you initially started out as a nonprofit, and now you're looking at building a business around that as well. Have you thought about legal structures such as the benefit corporation? So for example, in Italy, you can set up a company as a benefit corporation in accordance with local regulations and guidelines. And also for the UK, since you mentioned there being similar apps in the UK has a unique company structure called the Community Interest Company. Particularly to handle your business operations there with regards to the app, people in the UK using it to report strandings, and also for e-commerce through the app as well, if you're going to be including UK companies, because this particular initiative will have very clear local positive community impact for the UK. So I would suggest that you look into that, because then you can structure these entities in different jurisdictions. So you'd have your not-for-profit in Portugal. You don't have to set up a for-profit entity in Portugal. Essentially, your nonprofit can own the IP related to the app and the platform. And then that not-for-profit goes out and is a participant in founding these social enterprises. So that way your nonprofit can be one of the financial beneficiaries of these social enterprises alongside your investors and partners. And your not-for-profit can also become a partner in a fund as well. So that's something to think about long-term. But in the short term, one of the avenues you can explore is setting up a branch, let's say registering as either a foreign private foundation or setting up as a charitable organization in the United States. If you end up becoming a private foundation in the United States as GhostNet, you can then make what's called a program-related investment into an L3C, for example, or into another form of social enterprise, which is similar to a limited liability company. So it's not a corporation, it's just like an LLC, except that it's a low profit limited liability company that from a regulatory standpoint mirrors the Internal Revenue Services regulations and the Internal Revenue Code on program related investment. So that way your private foundation can make what's called a program related investment. And how that works is that investment is considered a donation, essentially like a grant. So that way you can maintain your tax exempt status and make a program related investment into your social enterprise and earn a return that's not going to be taxed at the corporate level in terms of the return that comes back to your foundation. So there's so many ways that you can monetize this initiative, particularly by remaining a nonprofit. So there's no reason that you need to scale this exclusively as a for-profit, a separate for-profit entity that's also called GhostNet, right? So you can essentially have all of this managed by your nonprofit in Portugal, and then have that nonprofit take decisions to set up social enterprises in different parts of the world and monetize its intellectual property, which is, your platform, on the kind of desktop side of things, where you can set up an online community through your website, and then also through any app that comes from it, whether it's an app that feeds from this network platform that allows for people to socialize with one another, and it becomes a private social network for social enterprise and ocean innovation, ocean conservation, or if it's a separate app, for the reporting of these strandings that also includes the e-commerce element. All of those things are IP, intellectual property that can be owned by your nonprofit. So I would really love to explore that further with you and see how far we can take this, because in my opinion, you have a very unique model here, and you have the personal experience, the lived experience of having been, and continuing to be a scuba diving instructor, having worked and continuing to work with green innovation through Denmark. And so you have that on the ground, practical experience, plus the business experience, and there's no reason why you can't, scale and develop and grow this initiative outside of Portugal, particularly because of your, connection with Sea Shepherd as well. And I actually spoke with Captain Alex about this, and suggested that what we can do as our next collaborative project is form a private social network that is connected through to Sea Shepherd, and that would benefit Sea Shepherd financially in terms of its own revenue, whereby we connect investable social enterprises that are focused on ocean conservation with investors who are looking for vetted, verified, investable opportunities where the due diligence has already been done, and any opportunity on the platform is already kind of ready to go, and that it has been assessed from its viability in terms of the financial model, the business plan, and that due diligence has been done when it comes to the social and environmental impact, and hopefully even the business and human rights due diligence has been done as well. So I'm really excited about that. I think out of everything that we've done to prepare for this conference, this is probably the closest to my heart, because I kind of joke about this sometimes, that I work as hard as I do so that I can get to the point of being able to travel and scuba dive. And I know that sounds a little bit contradictory of working on positive social impact, talking about the effects of climate change, and then also wanting to travel and scuba dive. But the reason I want to do that is particularly to travel and connect with people like you on the ground, go out to the sites, go out and dive with you, go out and see all this work being done, and then based on that lived experience, create technology and platforms to facilitate access to finance and facilitate active collaboration. And the best way to connect people is by having stories to tell, so having lived experiences and being able to showcase everything that's being done. So I'm really looking forward to that. So can you maybe tell me how you see this moving forward? Like, do you want to?
Miriam, I was going to say, you're an amazing book of goodness, and it's inspiring to talk with you, and your knowledge is just blows my mind. Thank you so much. Sorry, your question was?
No, okay. So my question is, do you want to take that leap into exploring these different types of legal structures that could help you develop, scale, and grow GhostNet?
Totally. See, my kind of, I have the solutions for what we can do for the ocean. Of course, Sea Shepherd is a vast organization with amazing people of different backgrounds, and it really is making waves. My kind of problem is that I just sometimes don't know how to move forward, and with people like you, it's such a pleasure to see how we can partnership for the goals, and really, you know, and make a difference. And that's what the world needs, in my opinion. Is we have so many great people, especially when it comes to like marine scientists, marine biologists, these great minds who know everything about the ocean, let's say, but they don't have much business background to expand and grow. And that's where people like you come in and really can make that happen. And it's such a great thing that it's happening, and it is happening around the world. And that's how it gives me positivity to know that we can actually make change. So it's really amazing. So yeah, for sure.
I think the challenge here is more so the access to capital. So for example, because what you're trying to do is so different and innovative, and the revenue potential is more so in the long term. It's not anything that's going to happen in the immediate term. And it's not something that would fulfill the requirements of an investor who's looking for a 3 to 5 year investment period and a return within that period. It's more so for an evergreen fund, or for patient or catalytic capital, where you have that investor on your side for 5 to 10 years, and you have a fund that could perhaps also offer capacity building support. So the challenge here is that doesn't exist in Portugal yet. So you're there where you're needed, and there's this huge gap in terms of creating business solutions to these very significant environmental problems, and yet you don't have the structures in place to be able to get access to funding. Because as a nonprofit, you have to go out and get donations, you have to apply for grants, you have to find aligned donors. And as a for-profit, you have to prove your business model. And you have to be very aggressive with pursuing financial return. So there's no middle ground in Portugal right now. And that's why I suggested that from the scaling standpoint of things, that you can do all your very important work in Portugal and develop your intellectual property, develop the technology through your nonprofit, have the nonprofit protect all of that work and the intellectual property, and ensure that, you know, you have a board charter that's in alignment with your values, that you have a board of directors that understands where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. And then from there, scale out of Portugal and have these tools and platforms be utilized to create local solutions in markets such as the UK, Italy, you know, even just looking at, you know, the Italian coast and how much positive impact you can make there, the US through an L3C or through a benefit corporation, even Canada. So Canada now, as of this year, has created a pathway for the existence of benefit companies in British Columbia. And so obviously you could partner with a lot of ocean-focused organizations and key players around ocean conservation in British Columbia because of the coast there as well. So then you set up a British Columbia benefit company. That business has to be aligned with a certain purpose. It has to actually exist for a very specific social or environmental purpose, or a combination of both. And that you have to consider the impact of all of your management decisions, you or any other director or anyone else who's on the executive team. The team needs to consider the impact of their decisions on society and the environment, and you're legally obligated to file a impact report once per year in accordance with third-party standards. And that's really the only difference. So it doesn't mean per se that you become legally obligated to pursue positive impacts above financial return. It simply means that they work hand in hand. So both the financial element and the impact element are now integrated. And with that integration, you're looking at a longer term process. However, what we're also seeing with, you know, what has happened during and post-COVID is that there's a lot more data coming out now where we're seeing long-term out funds. So for example, before people, you know, heard about this idea, they kind of knew about impact investing, that there was some information out there about long-term outperformance related to ESG and sustainable funds. But yet now with the COVID crisis, it's just kind of accelerated that sharing of information. Because what we've seen is with the stock markets, really dropping and going down by as much as 30% in value, we've seen that ESG rated funds maintained consistent performance throughout the crisis, and that over $70 billion in capital was attracted to ESG rated and sustainable funds during the worst economic crisis that any of us have lived through in our generation. So we're seeing, that this evidence of the long-term financial potential of social enterprise, benefit-focused business, and business becoming the solution to our social and environmental problems. So actually, this integration of having that, financial and benefit woven together is something that is beneficial for our economy as well. In the long term, we're not going to see immediate results, but we will be able to generate the long-term social, environmental, and economic benefits that we all need to see, especially in a post-COVID world. And I think, for your work, there's so much potential there, because again, with British Columbia having that structure, so you can start forming partnerships there right away. You can look at, where are these structures available, set up those subsidiary entities, and that actually then makes you more investable, and then you become even more of a favorable option for local and aligned investors who are looking for these types of investable opportunities, who want, let's say, other foundations that want to be making these program-related investments, but that wants to see both the financial potential and the social and environmental impact potential. So I really see a tremendous opportunity here. You've got these different revenue streams. So you've got, the ability to maybe have people paying for memberships if they're, on the platform. You can have sponsors come in as well. And then you can also, actively trade. So you can have trade happening on the platform in terms of the actual e-commerce happening on the GhostNet network website, between verified companies and your community of members, and you can facilitate that through an app that also that has the environmental impact of the reporting of right there. So there's a lot of potential there. There are a lot of different revenue streams that you can activate almost all at the same time, and that's really exciting. So I think it's just about laying the right foundation where you are, not worrying too much about, being a for-profit enterprise or, developing your business model out of Portugal, but developing your strategy out of Portugal, developing your IP out of Portugal, and then scaling that throughout the world, where your business model comes from how you monetize in these new markets where you can be structured as a benefit-focused company. So that's what I find really exciting about this, and I really can't wait to see what happens next and how quickly we're able to accelerate and move this forward, and hopefully also make sure that GhostNet ends up being one of the first impact verified, vetted, investable opportunities that we present on this new platform that I'd like to see happen in partnership with Sea Shepherd. We don't even have a name for it yet, but we'll hopefully come up with something rather soon.